Any of you guys out there that currently sell a product, sell a service, or have people on the road selling for you, you absolutely have to check this podcast out, because today we are talking about how to build a high-performing sales team. This is the third and final episode of the How to Grow 30% Year Over Year with Predictability series that I have been conducting with my awesome co-host, Mr. Ryan Groth. This episode beautifully ties up the last two episodes of this series as well, which were how to win more work with less effort by selling more versus bidding. And then the second episode, which was optimizing for an ever-growing and juicy sales pipeline. Guys, if you have a sales team and if you think they could potentially be performing better, you absolutely have to listen to this podcast. It is fantastic. I took so much from it. I've got notes after notes here, which I'm going to go and implement with my team. I really encourage you guys to do the same. If you want to join the conversation, or if you have any questions, or if you have any experiences of your own when it comes to developing performing sales teams, I encourage you to head across to the Facebook community where you can join that conversation, and you can even have that conversation with Ryan himself, who is in that group. Guys, there are a whole bunch of useful resources that he's left for you to get hold of across at the resource page on the SiteShed website, which is thesiteshed.com/resources. Go and get them because they are excellent. That's all from me. Enjoy the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this series. I look forward to hearing your comments, and I hope that you can go and implement something that you've learned. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations, and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form, and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the SiteShed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello there, listeners and viewers. Welcome back to the SiteShed podcast. My name is Matt Jones, and you're joined with me today by Mr. Ryan Groth. Ryan, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Ryan, you are from the Sales Transformation Group. You're located in sunny Florida.
Yeah, man.
So this is the third part of the How to Grow 30% Year Over Year with Predictability series. For the listeners and viewers out there that missed the first two, make sure you go check them out. The first one was called How to Win More Work with Less Effort by Selling versus Bidding. The second episode was called Optimizing for an ever-growing and juicy sales pipeline. Both were fantastic. Go and check those out. You will find them very useful. Guys, Ryan's left behind a bunch of resources that you can go get for zero. They're available through the show notes for each and every podcast page, and you'll also get it through the resources section over at the SiteShed. So go get those. Now, today, Ryan, we are closing off this series with achieving Contractor Nirvana by building a high-performance sales team. I am excited, and a lot of listeners will be excited about that too, because a lot of the guys out there have sales teams. A lot of the guys out there are, have service technicians out in the field. They're selling and all this kind of stuff. So developing and optimizing their sales team is of the utmost importance. I'm guessing in this episode, we're not necessarily talking specifically to the builders, the owners, per se, but we're really talking about anyone that's running the sales team, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, let's jump right in. As I say, this is an extremely hot topic. And so, I suppose having a framework, I've worked in companies before where I was in a sales position and I never really had any sales training, never had any metrics, never any goals, never any actionables. Like, you're basically in there, you get to the job, they're like, righto, have fun, and you're like, okay, what do I do, sort of thing. Likewise, I've also been to a whole bunch of sales training seminars and programs and things like that were complete horseshit. And I just think there's so much fluff out there in the marketplace. So it'd be good to sort of cut through a lot of that. I'm sure you've been to far more than me. You've probably seen a lot more garbage out there than I have. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a bit of a stigma associated with, that whole sales team development side of things. So it will be refreshing to get some perspective on an approach that is not horseshit.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love the honesty.
So, I suppose, where do we start with this? How do you want to frame this one up?
Yeah, well, I think like when you look at Contractor Nirvana, I think I think I saw your like face. You want to like start headbanging like Kurt Cobain, start, it smells like Team Spirit, but I like to define that as you have a super motivated, accountable, trained, coachable sales team. So think about like the talent, the people that describes them. They're taking massive action. So they're like going, like you see them playing offense every day, right? Like they're motivated, they're confident, they feel excited, they're coachable, they're accountable. And they are seeing an improvement of closing ratio, shortening of sales cycles. They're having fun. They're growing like crazy, not in a neurotic way, but like they're just blowing up. Like they feel like they're growing, and things are now predictable, and they're growing at the pace they want for the reasons that you want as an owner. That's kind of like Contractor Nirvana is you say go and they actually go. You're not like pushing salespeople to move. And that's when I define that, is thinking about this perfect utopia for a contractor. And that's to have salespeople who are just like really represent you well, and you're proud to have them on. And you have now freedom to think about, okay, cool. Let me put my hand on my chin and start thinking quarters out, a year out of where I want this organization to go, for the reasons that I want. That's Contractor Nirvana. So I think we should start. I just wanted to start by defining that.
So with, I don't know you're going to get into this, so I'm probably just reel me back in if I'm jumping the gun here, but I know with a lot of sales teams, like it's so much more effective when you've got a mapped out process and a mapped out like metrics, KPIs, and things they can strive towards to hit. Like so if you want to call it gamification, like whatever, just making things casting vision, I suppose, is effectively what you're doing. Like this is what you need. We need to hit. These are the reasons why. Here are some action steps. Go do it. And then letting them have their own unique spin on it. I think that's where a lot of teams fall down, to be honest, probably even in my own business, like there's probably, I feel like it's an evolution. It's not a destination. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So I think what we're isolating is the problem that, like, hey, owner, if you're an owner or a sales leader and you think that just like hiring a body who like knows your trade is going to go out there and sell, like you're in trouble, dude. Like you are in trouble and everyone's in trouble. Like that, like, let's stop that right now and not think that, oh, it's their fault, they suck, or they weren't motivated, they were getting a commission, they were like, bro, no. Like if you want to build a high performing sales team, there's a lot of stuff on the back end that you need to do. For example, like, do you think like these like coaches like Nick Saban with Alabama? I know I'm in America here, so we're talking American college football. And they just lost to Clemson last year, but they're still basically a dynasty. And
are you okay, man? Are you over it? Are you okay? You get past it?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I just feel like when I'm quoting a coach that just lost, people are like, "Well, but he lost." But so dude, like this guy sets the standards super high, and he celebrates things like, like the littlest things. I forget some of the funny nuances, like pancakes. Like he celebrates pancakes, like when someone falls on their back, like in a game when they block somebody and they fall back. He's not celebrating touchdowns. He's celebrating the behavior that creates a great defense or creates a great, scoring touchdowns. So like, yeah, mossed them, right? But I think that when the sales leader says, hey guys, like here's where we want to go, and here's the bite-sized steps that we could celebrate every day that are going to get us there if we just focus on that and not just like say, hey, go figure it out, go sell 2 million this year.
So it's
And it's
kind
like,
of
well,
like milestones, yeah?
absolutely, there's milestones, and I like to call them behaviors, like
Okay.
celebrating leading behaviors, not lagging. Like lagging indicators are, hey, we sold something. Well, what were the leading indicators that got you to, help you, give you confidence that you sold it? How many proposals? How many? It was a prospecting. How many account development meetings or how many leads it required? How many follow-ups did you do? So what are those things that get you? And all the ones that you closed, were they really qualified? Or the ones that you didn't close, did you go through the sales process? And so when you start to reverse engineer and you start to block out and goal set for those things, you can give somebody a lot of confidence because you've done the work. And I think if sales managers or owners haven't done the work and tracked it themselves, dude, they can't hold anybody accountable.
No.
I think people or owners who first and get their disciplines down, they end up becoming the best business owners, because now they're like, cool, if I'm going to lead somebody, I know what they should be expected to do. And I owned the company and project managed, or did the legal, or did the invoicing, or ran the QuickBooks, and I still sold this much. How much more can somebody who's fully focused on sales, given the right tools, the right sales process, the right coaching and training, how could they not fail? And I think that we just expect people to go out there and perform, and they're in trouble. So it's not just like a CRM with activities that lead to results. It's also coaching, it's also training, and it's also practicing and having an environment where people want to celebrate one another. I mean, 70% of people salespeople, Matt, are intrinsically motivated. They're not motivated by money. Like 70% are intrinsically motivated, which is like awards, recognition, beating others out and being the best on the team. And owners think that just because they're going to make money means that they're going to be selling a lot. Like, honestly, dude, it's more about what kind of culture you're creating and what kind of environment you're setting to recognizing and honoring people. So there's so many components that if you want to do it really right, and you want to be the best in your market and be what I like to call like an apex predator, someone who's top of the food chain, no one better. If you want to be like that, you got to have, there's some pretty cool things that you can do, and some questions you need to answer, and then start optimizing for that. But to answer your question first, don't just throw them out there. Like have activities that they need to do, and plot them and track them, hold them accountable, set a standard, and having done it yourself so that you have a framework to know what success looks like. And that's important.
Do you with I suppose not necessarily, maybe a sales team, maybe sales individuals, maybe the team, maybe the strategy, whatever. Do you typically encourage starting with the end goal and reverse engineering that so that it's in digestible bite-sized chunks for people to achieve, like within those milestones that you just spoke about, or actions or whatever?
Yeah, I do a 3-year, 1 year, and then you take the 1 year and reverse engineer it. And then I try to get them to think about like existing business that they can count on, and increasing wallet share and existing, scope of work. And then you're like, okay, well, here's our goal. You minus that. This is how much new business we need to find through new business methods. And then based on that and our deal size and our closing ratio, our average deal size and our closing ratio, what kind of activity on the front end do we need to do to get there? And as we're optimizing and making our closing ratio more efficient, and we're still doing those activities, those are conservative, milestones that, hey, if we do that, we're going to win. And it's also sobering too. We're like, damn, I got to keep this game. I got to play offense regularly if I'm going to hit these goals. And a lot of people who end up doing like this goal sheet that I do in my program, they're like, wow, this is sobering. There's a lot that I need to do if I'm going to hit these goals. Maybe they're too aggressive, but maybe they're not. It just depends. Or they're like, hey, that's really doable. I think I could do this, right? Once they break it down, they're like, it's only a meeting a day? Man, maybe I'm not aggressive enough, right? So we just need to break it down, because it's a cause and effect, it's a sum of all the parts. And it's really important, not to mention like different salespeople and what you can count on with them, and how developed they are. And there's a lot of variables to the parts that add up to an actual plan that you can effectively hit. It's
certainly been my experience over the years where, you read all these books and you listen to all these people and they give you the whole, 90% of people don't write their goals down, and, and 80% of the people that write them down don't revisit them, and only 30% of people that, achieve those goals, all this sort of crap. You think, oh, God, whatever. So you start writing your goals down, and then, they go on the top drawer, you never look at them again, and you never hit them. And my experience is always, of late, I've learned, like the difference between a goal and the goal and a wish really is a strategy. Like you can say, oh, I wish that I could hit $2 million a year, but whereas if you set a goal, I want to hit $2 million a year, then you create a strategy to get that. And I found that it's been really helpful through people that I've had on the show and people that I've, that I talk to regularly, the networks I'm in now. The framework of taking that goal and then breaking that down, like you just said, into bite-sized chunks and that means things like annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly deliverables, daily tasks, just really making it super, super digestible. And for me, it was what you just said then. I was like, oh, okay, well, so in order to actually hit 2 million, I've only got to do this. And I was like, that doesn't seem that hard.
Yeah.
The hard part is being consistent.
Yes.
Because shit pops up and life happens.
And when you have a sales team, you're relying on them to do that. So what I like to do is have that same exercise. I like to have them do it. And then I like to have, before I even have them put their own numbers to it and set their own goals, I have them ask, why do they even exist? Like, why are they even here? Like, why do they even want to be involved? And I get them to share their why on like a 7-layer why questions that I like to have them do. Like why are you in this training?
Like their
personally, like personal why. Because now when they're like, I want to get out of debt, I want to have a better lifestyle, they're like, that's going to cost me this. And they start to realize, now this is not just a quota I need to hit to keep my job, which I think is a very good indicator of a poor performer, is when they have, they want to hit a quota to keep their job versus like, dude, if I want to do what I want in my life, I got to hit this much so I can make this much, and I love doing that with the sales team, because then it's really cool when the sales managers and owners are like, know what makes these guys tick as well. So now they can start coaching to their desires and have that shared amongst the team. And you feel like a cohesive team, and you guys feel like you can work together for. It's one thing to play for a team, but dude, everyone's playing for themselves. Right. They want to play for themselves, not like more out of survival, not out of selfishness. I mean, they want the company to do well, but they're there so they can have success for what they define success to be. And then if we're all doing that, it's a lot of fun. We're high-fiving, the company's winning, making money. So I think it's important to get to why and understand that not everybody's motivated just by money, but if they are, like, well, why? And how much money do you need to make? And what do what's that's going to take? And then you start to get people to write that stuff down. It's in the CRM. They're held accountable to it. Now we're having fun. Now we have a team that's rowing the boat together.
Okay, so let's talk about this, because I think this is like a fundamental roadblock for business owners out there, and they cock it up all the time. They think, okay, and I've been in situations before in the company where it's like, well, we need to hit $4 million because if we do that, the boss is going to buy a new boat. And I'm like, I could not give a shit about if he's going to buy a boat. Like, I had no interest whatsoever. And it was almost demotivating. I was like, you know what? Now I feel like I've almost got an incentive to not hit that target because I don't give a shit about your boat. So like what you just said then about making it relatable to the individual is super important. And I'd love to hear about that conversation. Like, let's talk about how you sit down. Is it like in a meeting format? Is it one-on-one? Do you run through with them like trajectories, or like what does that conversation look like? So the listeners and the viewers out there, they can go, okay, I'm going to do this with my team tomorrow.
Yeah. Like, typically if I'm having that conversation, well, I'm helping an owner have that conversation. It's like a facilitated discussion. Like, hey, we're doing some sales training and, we're going to grow our business, but like, let's take a step back and let's talk about why. And if they did the analysis with me, they know how they're motivated and how motivated they are. And they're like, no matter if you're really motivated or not, we need to do this because most of you guys have desires and wishes, but you don't really have a plan. So I'm here to help you guys identify that and help those things come true. So, hey, we have 6 people here. Let's pair up. And what I'll do is if they watch that module, or if I'm on site, happen to be, local, I'll just have them ask, like, why are you in this training? And then ask them, they'll have to ask that question like 7 to 10 more times until they find out like what's really driving them. And then they're like, cool, here's my why. We flip it. Here's your why. Cool. Well, let's set a goal. I mean, time sensitive goal. We have a why behind it. What's that goal? What are some actual items to this why that would help this why become a reality? And then it's like, maybe it's a house, or getting out of debt, or maybe a quality life, or, feeling successful. Okay, cool. Well, what's that going to take for you to feel that, or for you to earn that, or for you to make that? And then you're like, wow, I need to sell. I need to make another here to get to this. Well, how much more do you need to sell? And so then you start to break it down all the way to they're doing their own math, and they're like, crap, like, okay. And then they start thinking about how like their closing ratio, if it was higher, how much better that would be, or if they sold more margin, or if they got bigger deal sizes. I mean, they start to think about all that, and they're like, and they start to get it sinks all the way in from like the head, and the heart really connects to their behavior, because you behave based on who you are, right? And your behavior is hard to manage from the outside in. I found that it's hard to manage sales behavior from the outside in. It's way easier to go from the inside out and speak to who they are, and then maybe upgrade who they are by, encouragement and investment. And then the behavior starts to overflow. I could tell you right now that the money you make is direct correlation to how much value you have for yourself, right? So like, if you value yourself and value the others around you, and you have a real clear why, you're going to be dead set on how to manage your day. Should I go swing into the fast food and take care of my body, or, have a couple Red Bulls, or am I going to, drink tonight, or am I going to be sloppy, or am I going to, when you have all those decisions that are combating, your attention and fighting for your attention, and that why, and you have like a clear sense of value, you're like, dude, it's easy to not do this. It's easy to not do this because this is in the way of what I want. And most people, salespeople, the best ones I know, are like super crystal clear on that. And now they're like having more fun because they know they're doing what they need to be successful. They're crushing it. And then they have time outside of that to, to do other things. So.
Yeah, I think it really puts things, it sort of removes obstacles, doesn't it? Like it removes the, roadblocks or whatever, shiny object syndrome that might jump in the way. When you've got a clear path, and this is, I mean, you would know, obviously, as an athlete, like when you've got a goal and you're working towards something, things pop up on the side here and they're not that important because you know where you're going. I feel like it's probably the biggest thing that business owners don't do well, like they don't understand how to structure that conversation and how to really understand the fact that if you want the business to achieve certain metrics or get to a certain point, you need to figure out a way that you can relate that to what your team wants personally. And then if you can help them get that, they'll help you get to where you want to go, and it's not going to happen the other way around.
Yeah, and it's nice when what you want happens to be what the sales guys want. I mean, that's nice when there's like alignment with core values, but like at the end of the day, you're stewarding human beings here, and lives, and livelihoods, and they're not just machines, working for you. They're like human beings, and I think when you show that you really care and people feel that, they're like, dude, this guy's going to bat for me. He's not just trying to screw me over. That's when you got an army, dude. You're raising up an army here. And that's why the more clear your why is and like your principles are, the more you can get people in lockstep with you. Like I have some principles. For me, my vision is to help every contractor on the planet build a predictable sales model. So it's so big, hairy, audacious and large, but I know that Microsoft said they want to have a desktop on every home, and every, so I'm like, screw it. Let's just get every single contractor on the planet to build a predictable sales model. And we do that through coaching and training and educational courses and stuff, and boot camps and masterminds or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like my team and any owner's team should should have like-mindedness, so that you feel like there's a fabric. They're cut from the similar cloth so they can represent you well. Like, and for me, I had to really ask questions like, what do I actually do? Not like, what do I want? What do I actually think is important? And so I think when you do that too, and you really want alignment, it's important to know like what your values are. For me, family oriented is a value, a principle, because I want my sales guys to know that I care more about their family being healthy than about them making money, because I've been on the other side where my family was always like at odds against my boss in my head. And I was always like defending one another. It was like so stressful. But dude, I know when my family's good, I'm a better performer, right? Because I'm not worried about my wife and kids. They're like covered. So all that stuff's, generosity is important, results oriented, student obsessed, lean and frugal, resourceful, high performing, like relentless with optimization. Like there's a lot of different principles that whenever I have a sales guy and like if you're hiring a new one and you have that stuff dialed in and they're a top performer and they like resonate with that vision and those principles, they're going to do, they're like, I feel special to be on this team because this isn't just like how everybody is wired. Everybody's different. I can't just go to any sales organization. I mean, I got guys that have worked with me and working for me right now that one was in mortgaging and one was in insurance, and they were able to make a lot more money. But they said to me, it's like, I didn't like the person I was becoming. I want to do something where I make the impact and make good money doing it. And so they're like joining my team because we're making an impact with these contractors and, helping them create that predictability, that freedom through training and coaching and things like that. And in the program, and they're like, I want to be a part of that because I want to change lives and make money. And that just happens to be how we do it. But I think some roofers or other contractors or whatever, they have a cool vision. Like we want every family safe and dry, or like, every, like whatever that is, like you get down to the why and some of the things that are important to you from a principle standpoint. And your sales guys, when they're in that, it's great. When you don't have any of that defined, you're kind of subject to like what you need, which is you need revenue. So you'll kind of do whatever it takes to get revenue. So you'll get that guy who, is sloppy or misrepresents because you just want sales. And then you just throw them out there without a game plan. Then it's so average. It's so below average. And I think so many contractors are missing out on millions of dollars and tons of money because they don't have a good idea of how to build a high performing sales team. They're just kind of like, doing what they know. And that's the trade. They don't know how to build a sales team. They know how to do trade work. So let a specialist help. And when they start to get doing that and they learn how to drive a team, raise a little army, it's fun, man. Now you're having a lot of fun. Now you can go leave for a little bit and not feel overwhelmed, and you're still making money.
Yeah. And so do you, with your sales team, and the companies you coach, do you recommend like weekly meetings to keep everyone on track, or do you have like Scrum style meetings, or how does that kind of look?
Yeah, I think you should have at least minimally one really good weekly meeting with like a sales coaching component and training. I actually do daily huddles. I do a Monday, and now they're kind of all blurred, like rolling together as a huddle. It's important though that at least one of those is really like metric oriented, because I think when they know that they're being tracked, there's accountability and the goals are up there. And you don't want to be that guy who's sucking, right? You don't want to be that guy in the room who's like the numbers are up there. But when you get this thing humming and you have like month over month, quarter over quarter sales guys that are doing multiple sales cycles have already gone through, you're going to have some points on the board that you're going to want to watch like regularly. And it's a lot of fun. What sports team doesn't look at like the numbers? I mean, right? Like they're all looking at the numbers. So pay attention to that. And then coaching and, ride-alongs and, role plays, that stuff just needs to be baked into what you already do, and I tell you, you add a good sales process, you had CRM, you have all these things, you're going to see huge ROI for, years to come. Yeah. I would say that what team doesn't practice, what team doesn't play, have offensive run throughs, what team doesn't, work on our craft. Tom Brady still has a throwing coach, he's Tom Brady. Well, he has a throwing coach. Well, yeah, that's why he's Tom Brady, because he looks at film. He's got a throwing coach. Just depends on how good you want to be, and you'll get an ROI. accordingly.
I love it. So is there anything else you wanted to cover off on that episode?
No, I think, if you're listening, whether you want to work with a guy like me or somebody, like get a sales process, understand how your team's motivated, really know what you want, and then help them find out what they want, and then see how that lines up with what you want. And then just play offense, man. You're probably gonna throw a guy from the field as your first sales guy, and he's gonna be excited, and that's great. But eventually, you're gonna be playing big league ball if you want to get to that level, and you have like real highly talented people, who are representing you that could make a ton of money at your company. And yeah, you just got to start somewhere. But if you already have a sales team, that's great. Let's be the market leader. And if you're already the market leader, let's remain that by staying focused and training. So I love helping with some contractors because I love this niche. But if you're not dealing with somebody like me, you need to get involved because it'll change the game. And
cool.
That's all I got to say about that.
Lovely. Well, the listeners out there and the viewers, if you just tuned in, that was the third and final episode of the How to Grow 30% Year Over Year with Predictability series. I'm co-hosted here with Mr. Ryan Groth from the Sales Transformation Group over in Florida. The salestransformationgroup.com is the website. And there'll be links to all that stuff in the show notes, guys. Ryan has left behind some resources for you. You can head across to either the show notes or the resource page at thesiteshed.com where you can get access to those. And I just encourage you guys out there to get in Ryan's space because there's some really good content that comes out, useful content that comes out, and I highly encourage you guys to get on those, get on that list and just start learning. Mate, thank you very much for your time. You've been very generous, very much appreciated. We look forward to having more of these conversations in the future. And for any of you guys out there that want to follow up or have any specific questions about anything that you've heard in any of these episodes, by all means, you can head across to the Facebook group there where Ryan's is part of that group, and you can ping him in a post there. Mate, thank you very much. Much appreciated. All the best looking forward. I'm sure you'll just keep kicking goals. So I look forward to hearing more in the future.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it's an honor to be on the show. And thank you. You're doing great things.
Rock and roll. That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.